What's going on, Los Angeles? What's up, Ramley? Welcome to the Rams Skinny here on the LA Football Network and live on the Mightier 1090 ESPN Radio. Thank you, everyone, for making us a part of your day, making us hopefully your number one choice for Rams talk. But even if we're second, third, fourth, fifth option, we're still an option. So we appreciate it and happy to be coming to you on a bye week. No preview because there's no game this weekend. Rams are on a much needed bye to hopefully get healthy. Obviously, Matthew Stafford, with what he is dealing with in his UCL. They've added a major player that we're going to talk about to that QB room, and just other things needed to be addressed through the bye week. So we're going to keep this light and breezy, talk some expectations. Hopefully they're kicking back, relaxing a little bit, but not too much, because obviously as a 3-6 now? 3-6 football team.
3-6.
A lot of things need to be adjusted in order to turn this season around. But first, my man, Ryan Skinny T. Anderson, Rams beat writer, managing editor here at the LA Football Network. What's going on, brother? How we doing on this fine Friday?
Oh, I'm doing just fine. You caught me off guard there by saying Friday because the show goes on Friday, but it is Thursday. But hey, yes. Thursday's great. I just got my haircut, looking high and tight on the sides, feeling good.
Yes.
Another day in paradise, another day doing what I love. So, I was telling you off air that I was on a couple of Green Bay Packers podcasts. So if you have any Packers fans in your life and you want to introduce them to Skinny T, send them over to those shows, the Big Cheese Network.
The Big Cheese. Nice. Well done. Yeah. Love that. For those, if you're listening on audio or radio, you need to pop over to LAFBnetwork.com or the YouTube channel, Rams LAFB, to just see this good looking minx that I'm staring at with this haircut here, looking real high and tight, real fresh. So let's give a shout out to your barber. Who's the lucky barber that gets to sculpt that do?
Veronica over at Fellow Barber on Figueroa Street here in Highland Park. For a long time I would just pick out, whatever barber, whoever has time for me, I'll just pop in and get it. Veronica, she made a few comments about my hair and my head shape and led me in the right direction, I feel like. So now I'm going to Veronica, Fellow Barber. If you're in LA, there's several locations. I don't need to give an unplayed plug, but they do a heck of a job. So check them out.
Unplayed plugs all we want. So it looks great. Look at you, a Nebraska man, Cornhusker, out here in LA in the wild, looking like real hipster in Highland Park. So, well done. I always shout out to my barber, my wife. Pretty easy to keep mine high and tight. Nice. Just take the blade off the old razor and zzz, all over. So on Salute to Troy on our Trojans podcast, I always get crap from our co-host that I have no hair because I'm either like too stressed out or there's too much going on or all these different things. It's like, well, I am thinning, but it's more of a choice that I want to go with this look now because, I don't have a nice mane like you anymore. It's too thin on the, what do they call these areas? Like the widow's peak or whatever you call that?
Yeah, well, male pattern baldness there. I think back at the very beginning of the pardon the interruption days, PTI days, they would debate shaved or just bald. Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon, and you're a little bit of both. So I think you got it.
I guess at least I got hair on my face. I'll keep that at least. So we're good there. Real quick, before we get into Rams talk, let's give a shout out to our paid plugin, Underdog Fantasy, our good friends over there at UF. Head to underdogfantasy.com or download the Underdog Fantasy app on the App Store or Google Play Store. Use our promo code RAMS LAFB. That's all one word, RAMS, RAMS LAFB. They're going to give you a match deposit up to $100. So if it's your first time signing up, put in $100. They're going to give you $100 free to play with in their fantasy play or in the pick'em, which is what we like to do. You pick 2 to 5 players across the sports spectrum. You can combine any sports as long as you have 2 different ones, and you choose kind of the overs or unders that fantasy underdog fantasy sets. Geez, here we go. And you just play that. So tonight's game should be a real doozy, Carolina and Chicago, but hey, you can make it more fun by playing Underdog Fantasy, or you got plenty of NBA games, plenty of NHL, and obviously the full college and NFL slate this weekend. So Underdog Fantasy, promo code RAMS, LAFB, all one word, gets you a match deposit up to $100. Tell them the guys at the Rams Skinny sent you. Bye week, my friend, it's much needed. Hopefully I should have worn the Hawaiian shirt, the Tommy Bahama or something. We're relaxing a little bit. But we got to talk breaking news first. It's a couple days old now off the presses. After many asked for it before the Packers game, we had it as an option, also had some trade options. We wrote an article on LAFB Network about what the Rams should do at quarterback if Matthew Stafford needed to miss, because this was a game, not only a very winnable game against the Packers, but somewhat of a must-win to keep their season kind of afloat. They did not do any of that. They start Brett Rypien. It did not go well. They have since released Brett Rypien, released Dresser Wynn, and signed old Carson Wentz, former number 2 overall pick, to the active roster. So before we dive in a little deeper, your thoughts on the Carson Wentz signing, and is it a little too late?
Well, we'll see. I think there's a chance that, Matthew Stafford doesn't, make it onto the starting field for the Rams against the Seahawks. I think that's a very serious chance. The reports aren't there that he's feeling pain in it, but he has to be able to grip a football. And apparently the thumb is an important part of gripping a football. So, he's got to – that's got to be fully healed. And you don't want to put him back out there before that is fully healed. And, he's got to be able to rip it. He's got to be able to move the ball that way. He's not going to do this team any favors coming back sooner. It's a UCL, which is, kind of a interesting ligament. It's, a lot of baseball pitchers have it in their elbow. The Tommy John surgery is to repair the UCL, I believe. So it's, it ends up in the thumb apparently. And that's, it's a major tendon. This is not serious injury. And it's in the throwing hand, obviously. So all that to say is that Carson Wentz might be a starter for the Rams on Sunday next week at SoFi following Sunday. So, yeah, I think that maybe not too late. But it also signals, I feel like, that they are serious about, making sure that they are contenders for the rest of the season in the games that they're going to be playing. I don't know if, this doesn't really change their playoff chances at all, but, Carson Wentz is a guy that is a proven backup quarterback that can go in and win games at an NFL level where, even Stetson Bennett wasn't, Brett Rypien, wasn't proven in that way. Carson Wentz, while he's maybe not an ideal starting quarterback in this league, he can win some games.
Yeah, the ceiling obviously is much higher. I think that's the benefit you get with the Carson Wentz is that high ceiling that we've seen, obviously in his rookie and second year when he was having an MVP caliber season before getting hurt against said Rams at the LA Coliseum, and then obviously that team went on and won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. But even since then, he's had flashes and he's obviously had moments of really poor quarterback play, which is why he was not on a team for 9 weeks this season. So. I agree with everything you said. I was a little, maybe not bum's not the right word, but disappointed, I guess, that they didn't do this last week. I get going into the Green Bay game, it was very unlikely that bringing someone like Carson Wentz off the streets that he was going to be ready to play, but it would have given you an extra week instead of going and signing Dresser Wynn as the backup to Brett Rypien. You could have signed Carson Wentz to be the backup to Brett Rypien. Still gone with Brett Rypien because he's been here since training camp, and they felt he gave them, if Stafford couldn't go, the best chance just because he knew the playbook and whatnot. Obviously, we saw that went, but I understand that thinking. But at least it would have given Wentz another week. Now you have the full bye week to get him exposed, plus next week going into their next game against Seattle. So you kind of miss out on an extra 5 days of him being with the playbook, being around the team, being in the building, in the locker room and whatnot. So, I'm fine with it now. I mean, it's certainly a move that I think is a good move just because he gives you that higher ceiling as a backup. I personally think Stafford will be back with the extra week. It seemed like he was close. As crazy as that is, I mean, that guy's pain tolerance must be through the roof. Maybe he had some, I won't even say it, but I was going to say maybe he had something to do in the helping his wife in the delivery with all 4 kids and has acquired some pregnancy pain tolerance in a way. But considering he was that close against Green Bay, I think having the bye week this week means he'll be probably ready for the Seattle game. But obviously having a guy like Carson Wentz can give you a little, higher ceiling talent to go into that game. So, we'll see how it plays out. We'll see how he adapts to the playbook. If it's a Baker Mayfield like situation where he's able to pick things up rather quickly, or if it's just a fun name to talk about, but we never actually see him on the field.
One of the confusing things about the Rams team is in some ways they seem so well tuned at assessing talent on their roster and assessing talent around the league, and finding guys like Puka Nacua in the 5th round and Cooper Kupp in the 3rd round, but John Wolford and Bryce Perkins, while good guys to have on the backup team to run your practice squad and things like that, were never meant to be a guy that would come in and win a game for you, and then they come into this season with that idea that, Stafford has had injuries. He's an aging quarterback. He's in his mid-30s. Oh my goodness. Mid to late 30s.
Making you look real old.
Oh, man, I feel it, man.
You don't look it. Look at that haircut. Look at that haircut, everyone.
Beautiful. Yeah. That's it's a moisturizer, people. I tell you what, go to Keel.
I wonder if people would guess, if we didn't always tell them, if they would guess who was older between me and you. We were just together.
We should put that on a poll. Put a picture up on Twitter and see what happens. Guess our ages.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I digress.
Anyway, but I think that just kind of going back to your point, it's like it's disappointing that they didn't go in and pick somebody up. Whether that's Jameis Winston, who I wanted. I don't think we talked about Carson Wentz as an option for them to go out and pick him up. But in terms of trade, getting Jameis Winston or somebody that's just a proven guy that can do it. And they did it last year with Baker Mayfield, and he came in just fresh right off the plane, basically ran out there on they landed the plane on SoFi, I think, and then he ran downstairs and played and won that game in dramatic fashion. And you see with like a guy like Josh Dobbs, and I kind of wonder if it would maybe knock something loose in McVay's head, where if he's got to call a game in a way that gets him out of his comfort zone a little bit, that maybe he'll just kind of pull out some of the stops and get this offense back to a place where it's humming and churning and moving the ball. And we'll talk about kind of some of the adjustments we want to see coming out of this bye week, but I'm also disappointed that they didn't make some move out of the trade deadline just thinking that Stafford's thumb on his throwing hand, for goodness sakes, is hurt. This is an important part of the quarterbacking process, is the thumb. It sets us apart from the monkeys. We can throw the football. So Carson Wentz, I think, gives obviously a much more veteran presence, just a guy that's been on the field a whole bunch in his career, high upside, but he also has the tendency to turn the ball over. We saw, in the 2021 season, first game, I think that was for the Rams, he throws just kind of a bizarre, end zone kind of shovel pass that ends up in Troy Reader's arms. Strange decision making. Sometimes he gets flustered and he's going to make some mistakes, but hopefully we're not going to see him on the field that much. And hopefully he's able to kind of pick some things up from Stafford and McVay and kind of rehabilitate his career. Or maybe he's just kind of a long-term backup option for the Rams. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I'm still surprised, I guess, and this is no shade to Jared Goff, because I know we have still, to this day and age, a lot of Jared Goff lovers, betrothers, supporters, and I'm one of them. I love Jared Goff. I think he's great. I'm so happy to see he's doing better in Detroit. But after that rookie season, I would have never guessed that Jared Goff would be back in like top 10 QB conversations in 2023, and Carson Wentz would be on the couch until week 10 when he's signed as a backup. I would have never guessed that, because I thought after that rookie year and second year we saw of Carson Wentz, just the arm talent, the athletic ability, the what it looked like at the time, real leadership skills as a young player, especially coming from a small school up in Fargo at North Dakota State. So it's crazy that how quickly things can change in the NFL. And this for him now, if he is, let's say he gets one game, let's say Stafford's not able to go for Seattle, this is now his opportunity to put more tape in his resume to go out and get a job next season. So he's older. I think he's 31, 32 around there. He's only a couple years actually younger than Stafford, I think. Surprisingly, I was actually really shocked when I saw his age. Because I did not expect him to be that old, but I guess, you figure drafted in 2016 and he was already a little older, I think, coming into the league. So you can fact check me, but I think he's like 31.
Yeah, coming up on his 31st birthday, he's going to be 31 at the end of the year. So
gotcha. So he's running out of time to get, more gigs. So he's going to be busting his butt and doing that. So that can lean into our next kind of thoughts here. Usually, not always, but typically with the bye weeks, players and staff kind of take. So basically from after the Packers game, I'm not saying the entire time, but from after the Packers game up until this coming Sunday is kind of like off time to go either travel, be with family, refresh, and then you come back after your bye, and then obviously it's all prep for the next week. So as we record this, the assumption is probably the guys are away from the facility outside of maybe guys watching film. It's a really refresh and relax kind of situation. So this is more of a question, I guess, for next week, but it can be pertaining to this week too individually. Like, what do you want to see the true kind of, like, how does this team get better in the bye week outside of getting healthy, which is probably one of the most important things this team needs, yet again, being struck with injuries this year. Outside of getting healthy, what is one thing that this team really needs to take from these next 10 days or so to get ready and be better for Seattle, in your opinion?
So I think the number one key for this team is to kind of get this offense, again, pointed in the right direction. And, outside of the 2021 season, this kind of outlier where, Stafford's new to the team and, there's kind of like a high flying aspect back into the offense. Other than that year, it seems like Sean McVay has gotten more conservative, a little bit more cautious and almost afraid to get outside of the norm and put his players into new and different positions and challenging positions and expecting them to kind of rise and meet the moment and maybe just try some crazy plays and silliness that will generate yards. And it seems stilted. We talked about Jared Goff and, in his last couple of years and with the Rams, it was like walking through mud. It was stale. Yeah. There was just nothing happening. And we're getting back to that point again where I'm putting it on Sean McVay. I've always been a defender and I still think he's a top 10 coach. There's other things outside of offensive play calling that a head coach has to do. And I think does a lot of those things really well. And obviously we know that he's got it in him. We've seen it in flashes this year where he's able to march down the field in a 2-minute drill and put up points, overtime in one game. And, even a couple of times just moving the ball, getting the ball to Cooper Kupp with Brett Rippon last week. It comes in fits and starts and flashes and things like that. And, so that's the element that I want to see where there's a bit more kind of new and innovative ideas coming out of Sean McVay specifically, just so that this offense can get going. There's a couple of things about the defense that I can talk about that are youth based, but it's like outside of game reps, it's not gonna change. It's the missed tackles and penalties, on their side of the ball, and it's that's really killing them on that side of the ball. But this offense is not putting up points like we thought it would. Outside of week one, they've really struggled, and even Stafford has put up good numbers in a lot of ways, but the points on the board are just not coming. And I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I hope this week for Coach McVay, going to be probably at home for the first time for a elongated period of time with his new son, only 2 weeks old or so. And he gets this kind of bye week to really spend time and reflect and enjoy it. So I hope he, takes that all in. And then I hope that's, sometimes those moments are inspiring, right? And we see inspiration and drawn up in this play calling and get back to what you said of this creative design and stuff. So hopefully it gets the creative juices going, having that time off, being with family, reflecting and appreciating everything. Because I think that, yes, football is a job and it's a work, but when you kind of step back and know what you're doing, and I think McVay is always very clear that he's so appreciative and loves this game so much. I'm not saying he doesn't do this, but sometimes it takes that being away for a little bit, even if it is 3 days, 2 days, 48 hours, whatever it may be, and being like, okay, I'm now have a refresh here and I can go into the whiteboard empty and start concocting up some fun stuff. And I think there's an opportunity here against Seattle that they had a lot of success with against week 1 in Seattle in that second half specifically, where they can draw on that and continue, because Skinny T, those first 2 to 3 weeks, do they play Cincinnati week 3 or week 4?
I'll have to double check, but it was
I know it was early.
Seattle,
We'll just say
San Francisco.
The first 2 weeks, there was definitely some of that creativity back that we hadn't seen in some time. I think Cincinnati was week 3 also, which there was struggles, but in the first half, or at least in that first drive, we saw the old Sean McVay. So hopefully this bye week refreshes that, and we get back to that here in week 11 when they're back. So quickly on radio, we got to take a quick break. So thank you all for hanging out with us on the Mightier 1090 ESPN Radio. We'll be back after the break with some Chargers talk for all you LA Chargers fans. But the other thing I want to see, Skinny, and this is more specific to next week when they're back on the practice field, really want to see, and I'm sure it's a point of emphasis, but red zone offense. I feel like that's definitely been an issue for this team kind of all year long. And it's hard for any team. I mean, stuff gets tougher when, the field shortens up and you have less room to work with. And I think Kyren Williams, that was a huge loss on his part, because I think he was very, very exceptional is probably a little too big of a word, but he was a key cog to how this offense does in the red zone. But now with Cooper Kupp healthy and the Puka Nacua, and you have all these other weapons, how are they going to utilize that to be successful in the red zone? Because even against the Packers, there were opportunities there. There was turnovers. There was moments where they were able to maybe make some things happen, and they just stalled. Maybe not even in the red zone yet, but like on the other side of the 50, just stalled out. So how are they going to get that consistency in the red zone? A lot of that does, when you get down there, if you're struggling with execution, sometimes it's on you as a play caller to get really innovative and creative to free guys up. I see it a lot, covering USC and Lincoln Riley. And there was one specifically last week where they had a really cool kind of jet sweep to Raleek Brown, who's just a burner, but it was a fake draw play, basically almost like a Statue of Liberty, then reverse or jet sweep on the back end, and he just walked into the end zone. So doing stuff like that, obviously those don't always work in the NFL. I'm not saying get gimmicky. I'm not saying do the Philly special or whatever, but there's definitely some creativity, I think, that's been lacking in the red zone that will definitely help this team, because, you got to get points and you got to get touchdowns and not just field goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of did a bit of a dive into the Rams offense a bit, and kind of looking at tendencies that they are not executing on this year. And, one of the things is when blitzed, they're having a really hard time coming up with answers for that. And you think about, screen passes, short passes to guys like Tyler Higbee, just kind of those plays that, that look like they're going to only pick up 1 or 2 yards, but a talented player can pick up a lot more yards, pick up some yards after the catch, short passes that turn into more. And currently the person that's being targeted the most in screen passes is Puka Nacua, and he's not doing a very good job. While he's doing fantastic things around the field, he's getting blown up. He's got 10 passes, just 43 yards on those passes. In screen passes, that is to say. And, it's just not working for him. But then if you look at other people that they have on the roster, Kyren Williams has been out, but he was doing a nice job in that role. Mm-hmm. But then you think about like maybe Tutu Atwell, you look at a couple of cases across the league of other smaller, fast wide receivers. Zay Flowers is getting tons of targets in screen passes, and also Tyreek Hill. And so you just put Cooper Kupp, put Puka Nacua out there, kind of, nice bubble screens right in front of him, and he just gets up to speed, and he's able to use that speed to pick up just a bunch of yards. I can see that in my head. That's that would just be an easy thing to do if they're showing blitz and you got 8 yards to go, which they've put themselves in that situation several times. That would just give themselves a chance to, pick up, extra yards. And Stafford has been is down in his play calling so far this year. They're operating at about 17% of his dropbacks are in play action, and he's actually doing a really phenomenal job from play action this year. He's had about half of his big time throws, a PFF stat, have come in play action. He's got a deeper average yards of depth of target in those opportunities, and he's actually got a higher NFL passer rating, in play action passes. And it's always been something that's been a part of the McVay offense. And he pulled back a lot with Jared Goff, just because as a quarterback, play action, you're turning your back to defenses. And Jared Goff just was having a hard time operating in that. Once that kind of, once defenses started to change their looks post snap, he just had a hard time with that. But it's something that, a veteran like Stafford, who's got the arm talent, can really exploit those kinds of things. So those are the offensive notes. Yeah.
And I was just going to jump in there. This goes into our point all the time. Like, the play action only works if you commit to running the football, because if you're not going to run it, they know the play action is BS, right? Like, you're not okay. Yeah. Well, that's clearly a play action because they're not running the football, because they never do. So that's just another point, is like why you have to commit to the run, so then the play action actually means something. Sorry, I just wanted to get that in there.
Yeah, no, and it's a fantastic point. And, we've seen that when he has committed to the run, Sean McVay, that is, that the run is working really well this year. They're running the gap scheme. I've pounded the table at the fourth highest rate, and they're in the league. That's a dramatic shift from last year and the years before. And they just need to commit to it. And it's hard to make that ask when, your two running backs are out. But going back to the screen game, Darrell Henderson has been in just for a couple games, and he already has as many yards as Puka Nacua does in the screen passes. So he's a weapon there. They used a nice pass to him in the Super Bowl to pick up a big chunk of yards. And, the passing game to running backs has just been a mystery since Todd Gurley left. It just does not seem like they want to use that. They've never really committed to using it that much, even though when using it, it picks up big yards. And it could be one of those things where the defense is just not expecting it. And so it's, it'll work here and there. But, obviously something's not working in this offense where they're able to consistently move the ball, and running the ball is one of them. But, setting your quarterback up for success to, pick up yards when you are facing pressure, just giving them that outlet, that just provides so much more. And, Tutu in the screen game, I think, would work, but I also think Tutu is being underutilized just overall, where Deshaun Jackson was with the team for a short amount of time. I don't know if people remember that, but he was there. And there was just he didn't get used a lot, but, in the few games that he caught a couple of really nice deep passes. And I think I can see Tutu being used in that way, and just let's air it out a little bit. Let's create a little bit of offense in that way. Just, it's in a way it's Sean McVay has used things like arm punts, where they just heave it downfield on third and long to try to pick up something. Maybe it'll happen. And, then I'll call the draw play. Everybody loves to see a 3rd and 12 draw play just to pick up 4 yards or whatever. Give yourself a chance to pick up a nice chunk of yards on 3rd down on an actually designed play that's meant to do what you want it to do. And, it just kind of goes back to that idea of being aggressive and being forward thinking. And so that's
the screen game is definitely something that has been lacking. I agree. And that was like the bread and butter of the McVay offense and what he built. And we remember the days back with Cooper Kupp, obviously, but with Robert Woods and Sammy Watkins back in the day. And And Brandon Cooks. I mean, there was such an emphasis on giving those receivers in space, and that's why to be a receiver in the McVay offense, you have to be a very good blocking receiver, because not only are you tasked to block in the run game, but also in the screen game. So I totally agree. Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are both very good blocking receivers. So get them out to the wings and have Tutu Atwell run on a jet sweep or run across on a in motion before the play snaps, and get him in that bubble screen and let him, go to work and see what he does. There's also Ben Skowronek, who we haven't seen all year long, and he doesn't definitely have the speed that any of probably the other receivers have. Him and Puka Nacua are probably closer in terms of breakaway speed, but has a bigger body, as we've seen lining up as a tight end and fullback a lot last year. So he's a guy that maybe can be that bowling ball if you need just, a screen on 3rd and 3 or something, and just a bigger body to get you over that first down marker. So completely agree. I think it's an underutilized play call that they haven't done a lot, or just haven't had a lot of success for, whether it's personnel issues, whether it's trust in the play design, or whatever it may be. But even when they have run it, they haven't run it to success, and it's like defenses are sniffing it out. So there definitely needs to be more deception there on when they're going to use it and whatnot. And even if they can't disguise it, just execute it better. So I completely agree that red zone offense and the screen game, I think, are real big points of emphasis this bye week, hopefully.
Well, and also Tyler Higbee's also a kind of a mystery man out there as well, where he was always not a huge part of the offense, but an integral part of the offense, where, especially in those kind of short passing downs where just picking up a few yards, getting to the sticks and getting that first down. And, Sean McVay said that he's hurt and he's got something on his hand that's restricting his mobility with one hand. And then last week kind of coming up limp with the other hand. And that's just another area that they currently, they haven't put anybody else in position to kind of show that they can rise to the occasion. I won't say that they don't have anybody on roster, because it's a position where they continually add people, but they've just never. We're not seeing a lot from Higbee, and we're not seeing anybody else behind him. So it's that's just another thing that I don't know if they'll fix it in the bye week, but just another kind of question that I have, and I feel like they need to come up with a fix there, just to give Stafford just another option. That they can find a guy in space that can keep moving the chains.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if they're banged up on the offensive line, you need to run 12 personnel or whatever it may be, there's going to be an emphasis on the tight ends and what they're able to do. And obviously got a run block, but if they're able to add something to the aerial attack, which we haven't seen really this year, that just, it adds that much more to the weaponry for Stafford, or if Carson Wentz is ever playing. So, yeah, those are definitely big keys. Anything else, Skinny T, to add, or are we ready to go off into the bye week sunset?
No, I think, that's all I got for you.
There we go. So, well, it's a stress-free weekend, Rams fans. Hopefully you can just jump on Underdog Fantasy, promo code Rams LAFB, and have some fun watching the other games, watching Red Zone, and you don't have to stress about this Rams team for another week. And then we can go and enjoy time at SoFi as they welcome Seattle next week, which we'll get all into next week. But thank you all for hanging out. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. We appreciate it. If you're not, go to the YouTube. It's Rams LAFB, real easy to find. That's where all of our Rams videos will be, including this podcast, or just go to the website, LAFBnetwork.com, for all of our Rams content, plus Trojans, UCLA, and Chargers, if you're interested in any of that. For Ryan Skinny T. Anderson, I'm Ryan Dyrud. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Enjoy the bye week. We'll see you all next week.